Welcome to this video overview of how to publish your work in the journal Science Education and Civic Engagement, an international journal that has been sponsored by the National Center for Science and Civic Engagement for a number of years. I'm Matt Fisher. I'm one of the co-editor-in-chiefs of the journal, and I've been asked in this video to give you an overview of the focus of the journal, the types of submissions we process, and some things that you may find it helpful to keep in mind as you are preparing something to submit to the journal. I also want to acknowledge at the start the contributions made by my colleague Trace Jordan, who also serves as co-editor-in-chief, and Marcy Dubroff, who is our wonderful managing editor. A lot of the ideas that will be in this video reflect their input, and Marcy in particular is wonderful in terms of making sure that the process of putting together each issue of the journal is really smooth for all parties involved. Let me start with the mission, the focus of the journal. The journal was started to explore constructive connections between science education and civic engagement. That means that we are looking for articles that use unsolved, complex civic issues as a framework to develop students' understanding of the role in scientific knowledge in both personal and public decision making. Because a lot of these pressing issues, for example, climate change, which is the focus of this year's Sensor Summer Institute, are not constrained by national borders, we really encourage perspectives that are international or global in scope. You see the website for the journal there at the bottom, and a lot of the information that I'll be sharing with you can be found there, as well as detailed guidelines for submitting manuscripts for consideration. So I highly encourage anyone who's thinking about submitting something to the journal to check out the website and get the information that is available there. There are a number of different categories of articles that the journal publishes. Review articles typically look at a complex issue that has both scientific as well as civic dimensions. And those articles are written at a level that's accessible for an interested but non-expert reader. Research articles are substantive works of educational research and assessment in science and civic engagement. We are open to considering research articles that use either quantitative or qualitative methods in their study. As long as the work is rigorous and contributes something of value to the field of science education and civic engagement, and it meets a certain level of rigor, we're certainly open to considering a wide range of possibilities for research articles. Project reports, on the other hand, are shorter and more preliminary. They're also shorter in terms of words. So project reports typically 1,500 words, research articles 3,000 to 4,000 words. Project reports are really designed to be focused on the progress or outcome of an academic innovation that addresses science and civic engagement. We are not looking for the same depth of study nor the same level of rigor in a project report that we would look for in a research article. Teaching and learning articles focus on practical strategies for effective science teaching, learning, and assessment, again in the context of civic engagement. The focus of a teaching and learning submission is on a specific strategy as opposed to an entire project. It's also really focused on the strategy in terms of presenting it as a way for others to consider using that strategy. We also have the possibility of articles that focus on the overlap between science education and public policy at a global, national, state, or local level. So some examples of topics that would fit into this category would include the role of science education in developing democracies, teaching evolution in U.S. public schools, AIDS education and national policy in African nations, using mathematical modeling to make projections about the spread of infectious diseases, using mathematical modeling to analyze voting patterns to inform voting mechanisms. All of these would be examples of things that could fit into the science education and public policy realm. And then finally, books, media, and exhibits are simply shorter articles around 1,000 words that are focused on reviewing materials that would be of interest to readers in the journal. At the same time, regardless of what type of article you're thinking of submitting, it's important to keep in mind the standards of scholarly work that were described by Glassick, Huber, and Maroff in their volume Scholarship Assessed. So scholarly work that we all recognize as being well done, regardless whether it is scholarship of discovery or scholarship of teaching and learning, is going to have clear goals. The person doing the work is going to have adequate preparation in terms of the resources and an understanding of existing scholarship in the field, appropriate methods in relation to the goals. Are the results significant? Is the work effectively presented so that it is clear and understandable to individuals reading the work? And does the scholar critically evaluate his or her own work? And do they use evaluation as a way to improve the quality of future work? So all of these standards in various ways come into play in all of the submission categories that I described earlier. So what makes for a good manuscript submission? Well, let me start with some general thoughts. The first is that it's really helpful if you review the types of articles that we accept for the journal. And as you'll see in a little bit, one of the components of a complete submission is a cover letter. And in that cover letter, we want you to identify the category for which you would like your submission to be considered. The lengths that I've made passing reference to, and you'll see more information about lengths on the website, those lengths are recommended lengths. There certainly is a great deal of flexibility on the part of the editors in terms of considering something in a particular category that is a little shorter or a little or longer than the recommended lengths. Those are simply there to give individuals who are thinking of submitting a manuscript some sense of how long we expect a typical submission in each category to be. Because we don't publish very many issues in a year, we have not published more than 2 issues in any calendar year since the journal was founded. We try hard not to publish articles by authors in back-to-back issues. So typically, if we can, we try and have at least an 18-month gap between 2 publications by the same author. Again, that's not set in stone, but it's our way of making sure that we provide everyone an opportunity with having their work published in the journal. The various elements that are going to be part of a submission, obviously the main manuscript, we would like that as a Word document. We'd also like the text in a single column. We'll also look for an abstract of not more than 150 words, as well as authorial information. So we need a title, we need a short running title of no more than 50 characters. We're looking for the names of all of the authors as well as their institutional affiliation, and biographical descriptions of each author, including contact information. Those biographical descriptions are not expected to be lengthy. 1 or 2 sentences per author is fine. We also like to have photos of the authors, JPEGs at least 300 dpi, as individual files so that we can include that in the published form of the manuscript should the submission be accepted. And then finally, a cover letter. As I mentioned before, the cover letter is where you indicate what category you would like your submission considered for. It's also where we expect authors to address any potential conflicts of interest. If the work is related to previously published work, we would like copies of the previous published work to help us understand how what you're submitting to the journal is different from what you've already published. We also expect the cover letter to include a clear statement that the work that you're submitting has been submitted only to our journal and is not under consideration at another journal at the same time. As far as the formatting of the article goes, for research articles, really it's the format we're all used to: introduction, methods, research, discussion. For other articles, we're a little bit more flexible in terms of the format, but make sure that your manuscript is prepared carefully so that the sections proceed in an orderly and logical sequence that's going to help the reader follow the argument, the analysis, the ideas that you're putting forward. Additional formatting specifications regarding tables, captions, setting off quote material, all of that can be found on the journal website. I'm not going to take time in this video to go through those details. And certainly if you encounter a question related to formatting and you're not sure how to approach it based on the information that's available to the website, please don't hesitate to contact Marcy, and we'll get you an answer as quickly as we can. Some final thoughts in terms of what makes for a good submission. It always helps when authors familiarize themselves with the journal guidelines prior to submitting their work. That just makes the whole process go faster. Every submission is going to be sent out to reviewers for their feedback. But if we have real concerns or real questions about the way in which the manuscript has been formatted and prepared, that's going to delay the ability to get it out to reviewers. From experience, a lot of the editing work comes in the works cited section, so please make sure to look at our guidelines for how we would like references formatted. If you're not sure about how to format a particular type of reference, certainly with the proliferation of online resources, there are a number of different sources now that authors may be using that would be formatted somewhat differently than a journal article or a book chapter. If you're not sure, again, please reach out to us with any questions. And finally, check grammar and spelling before submitting. We do have a proofreader that we involve in the process, but the more that any grammar or spelling issues can be caught and fixed before submission, just the faster the whole process is. And as I've mentioned before, submissions to science education and civic engagement in international journals should not be published elsewhere or under consideration at the same time. So, for those of you watching this video, do you have an educational project or an idea for a project that could be submitted either now or in the future to the journal in one of the publishable categories? At this point, you're going to get a handout that will provide you with some prompts that will help you think through what you may have in the way of ideas, either ones that are ready to be published now or perhaps ones that you might be in a position to submit for consideration for publication in the future. I can tell you from my own experience that even at the start of a project, it's not a bad thing to be thinking about eventually who's the audience that I would like to share this work with for critique, for feedback, for them to be able to use it and build on it. So thinking about a future audience and thinking about how you might take that idea and develop it is really what the prompts on that handout are designed to do. And again, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you're not sure about something, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. My email was listed earlier in the video and also can be found on the journal website. You're certainly welcome to contact me with any questions, and I will be happy to do whatever I can to help you.